Today, as you can tell, we're talking about leverage, power tools for living a great life. Years ago, my kids loved watching the TV show Mythbusters. And today we're going to talk very briefly about Mythbusters, but we're going to talk about myth-busting truths about mindset, minutes, and money. I don't know why you're here. And as Heather said, please jump in and chat or ask questions because we're here to help you. One of the things that I absolutely love about working for Blomquist Hale is that we offer counseling for individuals, couples, and families. We have monthly workshops just like this. We have several of them coming up. I believe we have 5 or 6 workshops this month. This is one of them. We do on-site trainings, a couple of topics there. We have 24/7 on-call counselors. We have some other resources for finance and referrals for legal consults. We do drug-free workplace training, seminars, and Blomquist Hale is just a great place to work. And this is one of the free services that we provide to the community, not just to the people who purchase our EAP benefit, the Employee Assistance Program. And so I'm thrilled to be here. One of the greatest, I believe, leverage points that you guys have is that we are licensed counselors to help you work through tough problems. And one of the leverages that you have is that it's free to you. Now, I say free to you because your employer values you so much they pay for that. I want to talk to you briefly about the value that is there and the opportunity that you have to reach out for short-term solution-focused brief counseling in challenging times of your life. Or some people just want to work with us to have their life be better. Because I believe that everybody's life is good. We want to help everybody to be better, to be great. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this webinar. So today we're going to talk about what leverage is. Now, I think all of us have had the experience of either seeing or being on a teeter-totter or a seesaw. It depends on which side of the puddle that you came from, what you call that. And now it's pretty universal. But I remember I was in elementary school and I'd run out and we would race to get on the teeter-totter. It was really cool. And we would put a whole bunch of kids on one end and one kid on the other end. You know how it goes. The teeter-totter goes up and down. Well, that's what leverage is. It's about a lever and a fulcrum. That was a little hinge point in the middle of the teeter-totter. And so when one end goes up, the other end goes down, depending on how the load is applied. When I was about 9, one of my brothers was on the teeter-totter. He was on one end and my little brother was on the other end, and the one brother was bigger than the other, so we had to slide closer to the center. Again, it's about the leverage, where the load is placed. And my younger but bigger than the youngest brother that was on the teeter-totter, he jumped off and my little brother came crashing on the ground and broke his leg. Now, it's not a happy story, but it illustrates the principle of leverage, that when we have a fulcrum, a point where we can apply pressure with a lever, we can do a lot of things. So we're going to talk about different leverages today. And you'll see there on your screen that how do you get 125 pounds to lift 10,000 pounds? How do you get $12,000 to do the work of $70,000? And my favorite, leverage is love. So we'll talk about that today. First, the story, 125 pounds lifting 10,000 pounds. When I was 13, I went to work with a contractor, and we were doing concrete. And he said to me, grab the end of that big bar. And he had a bar, it was a metal bar, and it was about 12 feet long. And he dug a little teeny hole next to a driveway. And then he helped me, and we jammed that little bar under the edge of the concrete. We put a 4x4, so something that was about that big, under the end of that metal bar. And then he helped me push that to the ground. And then all 125 pounds of me at 13, dripping wet, I might have been 126. And there I was, and I stood on top of that bar, and I held up 10,000 pounds, 5 tons of concrete. It was a driveway. And then he took out a big 20-pound sledgehammer and he beat that concrete into pieces, and then we threw it in a trailer. And I started to learn, even though I had experienced a teeter-totter, I didn't understand the power. Kind of felt like I was Atlas, holding up the entire world. Me on top of a 12-pound bar, holding up a 10-foot by 20-foot long piece of concrete that weighed 5 tons. Pretty amazing. Leverage is a powerful tool. How to get $12,000 to do the work of $70,000? You leverage time and interest. I want to share with you a little video. And as I share this video with you, I want you to think about the times in your life where somebody has deepened your relationship through a connection, through something they did, and think about, think about the impact that had in your life. So when I talk about leverage is love, I believe that doing love is doing the best thing for others, and that will always be the best thing for you. My sweetheart of 29 years got on an airplane today, and I know that before takeoff, they said, in the event that the cabin pressure drops, secure your mask first. You guys have probably all heard that before. Now think about what I just said about leverage is love, and doing love is doing the best thing for others. That will always be the best thing for you. If the cabin pressure drops and the mask falls from the compartment in front of your face and you don't put your mask on, we become a risk, a potential hazard or burden to everybody else on the plane. But if we put our own mask on first, we do proper self-care. That's one of the greatest leverage tools that we have, because when we're in a good place mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and socially, we can help other people. One of the things we do at Blomquist Hale is help people to be in that best place, whether that's individually, whether that's as a family, as a couple. We want to help you, whether it's in your business, because you will know that when your employees are doing well in their life, they're able to do more and do better things. So let's do a little video. Now, here's my warning for you. This little video that we're going to show is it's got subtitles, and so I just tell you to watch. I recognize that maybe some of you are on a phone, you won't be able to see the subtitles, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I'll read the subtitles, and they start right at the very beginning. So hopefully, I want to make sure that we've got the screen share going. So hopefully, you can see the big black box on your screen. Is everybody seeing the video? You control your volume. I'll read the subtitles for those of you who may not be able to see them. And this starts right at the beginning. As you watch this video, again, think about people in your life who have made a huge impact from a very, very small exchange. You'll see that happen in this video. Here we go. Come out here, thief. Let me see. What did you steal? What are you going to do with this? Answer me, she says. Give it to my mom, he says. Wait a second, says this man. Is your mom sick? Don't do it again, she says. He calls to his daughter and says, sweetie, veggie soup. "30 years later, he says, have a seat." The girl calls out, Dad, here you go. Next order. Summary of medical expenses, 792,000 baht. Urgent, for sale. Summary of medical expenses. Total, 0. All expenses paid 30 years ago. With 3 packs of painkillers and a bag of veggie soup. Best regards, Dr. Prak Arungtham. I don't speak Thai, sorry. Giving is the best communication. So if anybody wants to, I welcome the interaction. If anybody wants to talk about maybe a leverage moment in their life where something happened, it certainly doesn't have to be of this magnitude. Anybody care to share? And again, I realize this is recording. So I just want to suggest to you that in that moment, 30 years before, when that man was willing to help a young boy, who'd done something that he shouldn't do, but was doing what he felt like he needed to do to help his mom, that made a difference in that young man's life. As a result of that, he was able to turn around and make a difference in other people's lives. So here's my invitation for you as we, I just lose, nope, there you are. Sorry, pushed the wrong button and you went away, but we're back. So as we go through this today, what I would invite you to do is think about the leverage opportunities that you have. And again, I don't know if you came here today because you were interested in finding more about how to leverage your time or how to leverage your money or how to leverage your mindset, but we're going to talk about all of those. And so we've talked about what leverage is kind of in a generic way. It's using a fulcrum to lift something, to apply pressure, to influence something in a positive way. We could also use leverage in a negative way, but we're going to talk about it mostly, well, all of it today in positive ways. So when we talk about mindset, mindset is the thoughts that we have, the things that we think and feel. And as you can see there, thoughts drive feelings, feelings drive actions. I remember hearing Michael Jordan, when he was at the peak of his career, somebody said to him, Michael, what's the difference between a peak performing athlete, somebody who's top level NBA as Michael Jordan is, and somebody who's just NBA, just good? And Michael said, oh, that's easy, it's mindset. And I'm grateful that the interviewer then said, well, what do you mean? Michael said, well, it's easy. He said, if I miss a shot, I have to develop this ability to stay in the game mentally and physically. He said, so I developed the ability to say, I missed that one, I'll get the next one. So mindset is about the things that we tell ourselves. Interestingly enough, most of us, or my experience has been, that most of us listen more to the voices in our head than the things that other people say about us. And what I mean by that is somebody might say to you, oh, you're so amazing. And we might say, well, yeah, but if you really knew. Now, sometimes we also listen to those voices when people say that we're not so amazing. And then we think, yeah, they're right. I'm not amazing in this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. And sadly, most of the time, the seeds that we plant and then the seeds that we nurture is that we don't focus on our strengths. We focus on our weakness, and we compare our weaknesses to other people's strengths. And the problem that we have there is that it affects the way that we are. One of my heroes, a guy by the name of Viktor Frankl, said, "The last of all freedoms is the right to choose one's attitude in any situation." So how do we do that? We get to understand the principle of leverage. And hopefully you've all had an experience like I have. When I was in kindergarten, my teacher brought out the little Dixie cup, gave us some potting soil. I think after that, she didn't let anybody else use potting soil. She probably put it in there because we had potting soil everywhere. But she gave us these little Dixie cups and the potting soil, and then she gave us a seed. And she told us if we plant that seed not too deep, so if we plant it too deep, it doesn't get the water and it can't get the sunlight and it can't grow. So that's part of nourishing. So it's not only just planting the seed, it's how do we water it and how do we make sure it gets the right amount of sunlight? And you know that if we plant it and we nourish it and we protect it, that eventually we will see the fruit of that. Whether it's a beautiful flower, whether it's an actual plant that gives us fruit. When I was a kid, I had the opportunity to grow a garden. I was pretty excited. I learned that I'm really good at growing weeds. Maybe you had an experience like that. But I couldn't tell the difference between the corn seeds that I had planted and the weeds that looked just like that. And my mom said, well, you have to wait till they get a little bit bigger. And I did. Well, that was a great learning experience for me as I started to learn to plant and to see those seeds sprout and to make sure that they got water and sunlight and make sure the weeds didn't choke them out. Sometimes the weeds of thoughts that we have choke out the truth. It doesn't mean that the seeds that we plant aren't real, that sometimes we don't nourish them the right way. So as far as mindset is concerned, we're going to talk about leverage tools for mindset. Now, you would expect this because I'm a counselor, and one of the things that I have found to help anyone in any situation, as a matter of fact, in every mental illness that I am aware of. Now, I'm not talking to you because you're mentally ill. I'm talking to you because we are good and we want to be better. So think about if we're already in a good place, but what if we do have some depression, some anxiety, some stress in our life, some clinical illnesses? Well, the good news is that the things that we're going to talk about today, when understood and applied, will help in every situation. So, number one, there are 3 things that I talk to almost everyone that I ever visit with about that will help you. And these are tools of leverage. Exercise. Because when we exercise, we feel better, as long as we don't overdo it. If you haven't exercised for a long time and you go out and you run a half marathon, you're not going to feel better the next day. You're going to feel a lot worse. But if we start and we do a little bit and we build up, and again, we plant those seeds of being well, when we feel better, we think better. As a matter of fact, after you exercise, your IQ, it's actually clinically proven, not clinically, it's research has proven that we think better for up to 2 hours after we exercise. So we think better, we feel better. Think about the fuel that you have in your car. Some of the fuels that we put in our bodies, the food that we eat, the sleep, the rest that we get, the rejuvenation. So there's a big difference. One of my friends loves to ride 4-wheelers, so do I. And we go down to Little Sahara. We have a place in Utah, down south, where there's a sand dune, and it's a 15-degree hill. I was going to show you a video, but maybe not appropriate for this setting. Anyway, and my friend takes his alcohol-fueled 4-wheeler. It's a fuel mix that has high octane alcohol. His 4-wheeler, the engine specifications are so strict that it won't run on regular fuel. So he has to buy this special fuel for this 4-wheeler, and he can go 80 miles an hour up the face of Sandown. Now, I think that's a really cool thing. You might be thinking that's kind of crazy, but it is so much fun to be out there and to go and do that with him. And I share that example because the fuel that we feed ourselves with is very, very important. Proper sleep, proper nutrition, proper activity levels, as we've talked about. All of those are tools of leverage, and every one of those, if we do those big 3 right there, we know for sure that people do better. Now, that doesn't eliminate everything, but one of the reasons, and I like to share with people the why, one of the reasons that's so important is because as we exercise and eat right and rest properly, our body produces the right chemicals. And if it doesn't, if we don't give it that opportunity and that help, proper fuel, then sometimes those depressions and anxieties and other illnesses that we have become a much bigger deal. So here at Blomquist Hill, one of the things that we talk to people about is how do we do this in the best way? Now, another one of my favorites. This is one of the greatest leverage tools for mindset that I know of. We have actually learned that people who understand gratitude and do it well actually create new neural pathways in their mind. They actually learn and our brains grow in a different way and we actually think better. And as you can see, we're happier, healthier, we become better thinkers, we're more productive, we have better relationships. And so if you've done gratitude before and you're like, that didn't work. I met with a man several years ago and he came into the office and we sat down and he started talking to me and he said, here's some of the things that I've struggled with. And I've been to counselors before. And he says, if all you're going to do is talk to me about gratitude, then we can stop right now. And I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. So I said, well, tell me. And he says, I did gratitude for so long that I was the most depressed, gracious person that I knew. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I would sit down every day and I would write down the things I was grateful for. And he said, I got worse, not better. Now, you might be thinking, whoa, I don't want to have that experience. I don't want you to have that experience. Sean Achor is a researcher, graduated from Harvard. If you make it to Harvard, you must be at least a little bit smart. And what he found was when we can connect why we're grateful, that's the part that helps our brains become healthier. It rewires your brain. And so my invitation, and Sean has a 21-day challenge that we're not going to talk about today, but if you're in a place or you know somebody that's really struggling, take the 21-day challenge. It's 5 things that he invites you to do every single day for 21 days. And at the end of 21 days, you will feel better and be healthier. All of those things are true. One of the things that he talks about in those 5 things, and by the way, we've already talked about some of them just because they're so common, the fuel that we talked about and exercise, those are part of the 5 things. But he says, write down 3 things you're grateful for and 3 reasons why. I believe the psychology behind the why is this. There's a great speaker who said the what informs and the why transforms. When you can identify why, it changes your world and it helps you connect. When that little boy in the video got help from that man, the man didn't say, this is why I'm doing this, but I'm sure that little boy connected. And it made such a difference in his life that years later, he was looking for ways to help people. And you saw those photos at the end of all the different things that he had done. So gratitude is one of my favorite leverage tools. Synergy. If you haven't heard of synergy, it means that 1 + 1 = 16. Meaning that the sum is greater than the total parts. One of the things that I've done that's been one of the greatest tools of leverage for me in my life is to connect with coaches and mentors and counselors, to have a mastermind, to have people who are willing to help me to see situations and to learn how to be better. The most successful people on the planet employ coaches, mentors, and counselors. I'm not saying that because I'm a counselor. I'm saying that because it's true. You look at the Michael Phelps and the Michael Jordans and the Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods at one point in his career hired 6 different coaches to help him improve his golf swing. Took him from one of the best amateur golfers to one of the greatest pro golfers in the game. I think he should have had some relationship coaching. Maybe it'd be in a different place, but that's a story for another day. Meditation. Meditation is a great tool of leverage because it helps increase focus and application. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm kind of rifling through all of this stuff is that not every one of us needs every one of these tools, but I want you to know that these are all great tools. Now, if you're wondering, well, where do I find out more about these? We have a YouTube channel that has over 100 different presentations. So I would tell you to go there. We have so many great resources today. You can call in and say, hey, we need more information about this, and I'm happy to do that. You can send me an email. My email is dj@blomquisthale.com, dj@blomquisthale, the letter D, the letter J at blomquisthale.com. I'm happy to share any of these resources or more information about them. Another one of my favorite leverage tools, visualization. One of my heroes, Napoleon Hill, said, what the mind of a man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Well, when we get really clear about who we are and why we are, and I love that Mark Twain said the two most important days of our lives are the day we're born and the day we figure out why we're born. I don't think it's just about figuring out our why. I believe it's about living our why. Remember when we talked about gratitude, why makes a difference. Planning, another tool of leverage. The most success that people ever have is when they sit down and they actually say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. Here's why I'm going to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. And then they evaluate, how did we do and how do we move forward? Connection. I shared that little video because it's such a powerful, powerful connection. I've shared that with so many people and they come up to me afterwards and they go, wow, I felt that. I've had somebody in my life who made a difference for me in that similar way. And my goal is to make a difference in other people's lives, just like people have made a difference in mine. It is that pay it forward principle, another great principle of leverage. And last, set goals and work towards them. Now, a lot of people go, I set New Year's resolutions, and by the 14 days into New Year, I'm done. I quit. Let me share with you one of my favorite tools to help make us more successful. It's 3 simple words: stop, start, and continue. Identify one thing that if you stopped doing right now, it would have a significant impact for good in your life. Once you've stopped doing something, you now have a space in your mind and also in your life where you can start doing something that would be more meaningful and more productive in your life. And the last is to continue. Now, I have a friend who one day came home and he was pretty frustrated. He had just received some information from his school. He was in college that he wasn't doing so well, wasn't doing as well as he thought. And he looked at his life and thought, what could I do different? Well, he was watching 4 to 5 hours of TV a night. So he decided he was going to stop watching TV, start doing his homework, and start writing a book. Last I checked, he's written over 50 books. It's made a huge difference in his life just by simply saying, hey, what am I going to do? You can see there that there's a true principle here. When performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. One of my greatest reasons to work with coaches, mentors, and counselors is that my coaches and mentors and counselors will help me measure after I've just said, this is what I want to do and this is why. So as far as mindset's concerned, there's so many other things we could talk about. That's just kind of a shotgun approach to some of my favorites that I have seen work in my own life and in the lives of people that I know personally who are very, very, very successful. Now, a lot of people say, okay, Darren, well, how can I leverage time? Because time is the same for everyone. Now, I've heard it before and you've heard it before. Well, I just don't have enough time. Or if I could just get more time. Well, the good news and the not so good news is we're not going to get any more time. We all have 24/7. That's it. What we do with our time is really what matters. Now, if you're in a place where you can, and we're going to do this really, really quick. This is something that I usually do a lot longer version of, but I call them the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. So here's what I want you to do. Take out a piece of paper. If you're driving, don't do this, okay? Don't participate at home. But take out a piece of paper, and I'm going to do a little timed quiz with you. And we only have a short time, so I'm not going to do a lot of time. But get your paper out, and when I say go, I'm setting my timer right now. When I say go, what I want you to do is I want you to, as quickly as you can, it doesn't have to be perfect. I realize for some of you that's a little bit of a stressor, but you're going to do the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. But the way you're going to do it is very specific. I'm going to tell you how to do that, and then I'm going to say go, and you're going to write as fast as you can. But how you're going to do it is to write A1, B2. And when I tell you to stop, I just want you to take a note, and then we're going to do this again. So just to be clear, on your paper, I don't care if you write down or across, A1, B2, as quick as you can, as many of the letters, as many of the numbers in proper order. Ready, set, go. Stop. That was 15 seconds. Now I want you to take a note of where you're at. How many ABCs, how many 1, 2, 3s? Hopefully you got them right. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm not trying to insult you, but sometimes when you're trying to do something fast, we don't do it as well. Have you noticed that? But it should have been A1, B2. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to give you 15 seconds again. This time, what I want you to do as quickly as you can, your goal is to write as many of the alphabet letters, alphabet numbers, there you go. Alphabet letters and the 1, 2, 3s. Now, warning, you're probably not going to get any 1, 2, 3s unless you write lightning fast. But you're going to get a lot more characters, total number of characters, the second time than the first time, just because. I'll tell you in just a minute. Ready, set, go. 15 seconds. Stop. So if anybody is willing to unmute themselves, anybody that did that, or put in the chat, how many more did you get down in the second go round than the first? Now, since I'm not monitoring the chat, Heather is, and I don't hear anybody saying, here's what I would predict has happened. The first time when you did this, you were doing a thing that we call switch tasking. It's easy for us to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 26. But when we have to go A, B, or excuse me, A1, see, I can't even do it, A1, B2, C3, and we switch back and forth. Now, if you practice that a lot, you could get really, really good at it. So what I'm willing to bet here, and I've got a couple of people, oh, here we go. I got through the ABCs into 7. Wow, that's amazing. I got 21 versus 31. Only 18 characters the first time, 23. I love it. Now notice that what happened here when you were focused on one thing. Now some of us believe that we can multitask. We believe that computers multitask, which my IT friend says they don't. What they do is they do one thing, they get it done, and then they move to the next thing and the next thing. They just have very fast processing speed. And so what I'm seeing here validates everything that is what we know to be true. Okay. So the question, somebody asked, where can we find the 21-day challenge? You can look up Sean Anker book, The Happiness Advantage, or you can shoot me an email and I can email you a summary of it. So if you want that, then you can send the email and we'll do that. So those of you that participated, thank you so much. You just validated something that we know is true. We are not good at multitasking. Now, some of us think, well, but Darren, I really am. I can cook dinner, I can do the laundry, I can, and I'm talking about household chores because often that's where we do it. But think about it at work. If you're working on something and you're focused, you're on your game, you're in the zone, and somebody comes in or the phone rings and you switch, we've actually done research and we know that it takes some of us up to 5 minutes to get back into the flow. For some, it's even longer than that. And so I'm going to suggest to you that one of the greatest leverage tools that you can is to do something that I learned from one of my coaches. And he said, if we will start the day and we'll take some time and sit down and say, and we talked about this in mindset, if we'll sit down and we'll take time to prioritize the tasks that we need to get accomplished, and then we'll do the most important one first, and then move to the next one, and then move to the next one, and even sometimes close your door and say, do not disturb. and leave a voicemail that says, let me know what your questions are. And when I get back to you at this date and time, if every time your phone rings, you're going here, it's taken you longer. It's just like writing A1, B2. It takes you longer to get back into that than it does to just start moving and move forward. So making the minutes count, planning, so very, very important. Understanding your why, delegating, something that we haven't talked about. The most successful person, I remember I found this guy who was in the business that I wanted to be in. And I went to him and I said, will you teach me how you do what you do? And he says, well, yeah, sure. But you have to schedule a time. My schedule is over there. I don't even look at my calendar. And he would literally walk into his office on his work days. His admin would hand him his calendar for the day. And if it wasn't a work day for him, he wasn't in the office. And his work days consisted of doing only things that he could do. It would be like the brain surgeon prepping the OR or cleaning up the OR afterwards. Now, that's not to say the brain surgeon couldn't or wouldn't. It's to say that he's most effective or she's most effective in that place of doing brain surgery. So why should they be doing anything else? When we get that focused about our life, now that doesn't mean that you can't do those little things. I still mow my lawn. I could pay somebody to do that. I don't mow it because I can't afford to pay somebody. I mow it because for me, it's one of those ways to refuel. I enjoy getting out there. It's fun for me to make patterns in the grass. Let's be honest, I'm a little bit ADHD. So that's kind of a fun thing for me. But identify the reason why you do what you do. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We're coming down to the last part of this. If I race through something and you're like, oh, I want to know more about that. Again, one of the ways you can do that is send an email to me, dj@blomquisthale, and I'll do my best to get you whatever resources or information that I have. Now, maybe one of the reasons you're here is that because of mindset or because of time management or because of what we're going to talk about right now, because of money management, our relationships are not in the place that we want them to be. And by relationships, I mean that we're all in relationships. The single most important person that you are in a relationship with is yourself. That's why you have to put your mask on first. And doing love truly is doing the best thing for others. So just imagine that I show up and on my schedule is you. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever that means to you. I love that Brene Brown says that we are all inextricably connected. This is her definition of spirituality, by a higher power. Now, again, that could be whatever it is to you. I'm not preaching religion here. I'm just talking about the fact that when we connect to something grander than us, not only do we have the hope that we can become better, but it helps us see each other as equals, because you are the most important person in your life. Not more important than anybody else, but as important as everyone else. And so when you see yourself for who you are, and you recognize that you have a purpose in life, and that your purpose is about connecting with others, your world is better. As a matter of fact, Brene Brown says that when we connect with others because of our connection to our higher power, that we find meaning and purpose, depth and connection in our life. So to help you remember this, I just use your hand. So if you're not driving, just hold up your hand, and if you put your left hand in the air, and I'm going to use my right hand because we're reversed here. So your left hand would give us a thumbs up. Thumbs up is you are the single most important person in your life. And when you connect to your higher power, you are in a better place mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and socially. From there, you can connect with a significant other in your life. As a matter of fact, the happiest, healthiest, most productive people on the planet have significant others in their life that they are committed in a long-term, happy, healthy relationship with. Now, I realize that not everybody has that. And so start with you. And then if you choose to, you can look for that other person. But if you're not in a good place, it's hard to be in a good place with anybody else, especially a significant other or spouse. So you're the single most important. The next is that significant other in your life. From that relationship, if we choose to have children, our children do so much better. As a counselor, I know that when the parents of children are not in a good place mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and socially, the children struggle. You want to leverage great relationships and really make a difference in the world? Be in a good place for yourself. Develop that great relationship. By the way, that L right there stands for love. When we really understand who we are and why we are, we can love other people in a way that's healthy and does not take advantage of anybody, because love is doing the best thing for others, and that will be the best thing for you. From there, we go to our extended family. That would be mom, dad, aunts, uncles. If you're in Hawaii, it's the whole island because everybody's Ohana. The next is others, and the last is stuff. Those are the 5 key relationships. And most of us, if we don't understand or don't apply correctly the priority of those 5 key relationships, we struggle. When stuff becomes the most important thing, the other relationships suffer because we will sacrifice the relationships to get the stuff. And the stuff doesn't matter. I know lots of people who have a lot of stuff, who have a lot of relationship problems, and mentally and emotionally are really struggling. The greatest relationships start with 2 healthy individuals who choose to be interconnected, 2 independent people who become interdependent. And so when you think about how to create your best world, it's about knowing who you are and why you are and living accordingly. Now, I have not saved the best for last. As a matter of fact, we started with the best. Real leverage is love. And when you truly love people, not things, the people matter, the things help us to love and interact and connect with the people that matter most. However, the polls, the research that has shown 89% of divorces cite money as one of the top 3 reasons. Over 85% of us, you and I, the survey says, the Gallup poll says, the last one that I saw, says that more than 80% of people stress, worry, or take time away from work, meaning focus, right? We're switch tasking. Oh, am I going to have enough money to pay that bill? Well, guess what? If you're in that position where you're trying to figure that out, start with those 5 key relationships, and let's really look at it and say, how do we do this better? How can I understand how I can live those 5 relationships better? Now, I did notice in the chat that somebody sent in the chat a request. I'm really, really sorry. I don't get the chats afterwards. Once we stop this meeting, it's going to go away. So if you want something sent to you, then please send me an email. Or I don't know, Heather, if you can get that, but dj@blomquist-hale is my email. And Heather, I'm happy to share any resources that I have, but that's the easiest way. So let's talk about the last bit. Let's just have a few minutes here. If you have questions about this, again, we're going to go through this really, really quick. And I'm going to start right near the bottom. We're going to talk about ways to leverage money. We've talked about how to leverage our mindset. We've talked about how to leverage our time. I want you to consider this. The most happy, healthy, functioning people are typically people that do time and resource management well, because they know the most important thing isn't time, it isn't money, it's relationships. And so we have a relationship with work, we have a relationship with money, we have a relationship with ourselves, we have a relationship with the things that we think about, the things that we do. And so my invitation to you and I is to really be intentional about what we do and why. Now, one of the things that I'm going to share with you, and I told you about Mythbusters earlier. So I was watching Mythbusters with my kids one day, And Jamie and his buddy were busting this myth about, hey, you know, a strong man can rip a newspaper, not a newspaper, a phone book in half. Well, they took a big, thick phone book and they put it page over page. Now, I just did that with that book right there. Oh, my screen may not show you. Let me, sorry, let me take my screen. Well, this book is 25 pages long. So I put page over page over page. You want to think about how you create happy, healthy relationships. It's one thought, it's one act, it's one kindness at a time. How do you destroy a healthy relationship? One thought, one act, one unkindness at a time. How do you create great financial stability? It's not about winning the lottery. As a matter of fact, people that win the lottery lose. They're in a worse place 5 years later. So how do we leverage money? There are two ways to make money. It's either people at work or money at work. And what I mean by that is we can go to work and we can trade our time for dollars. And people who live paycheck to paycheck are in that place where they're constantly trading time and dollars, trying to figure out how can I get ahead? Well, the people who are in the best place are either going to get people to work or money to work for them. Remember when I said I had to get $12,000 to do the work of 70? Really cool thing. Dave Ramsey talks about this. All of the financial gurus that I've studied. I have been a licensed financial advisor since 1995. I tell you that not as a commercial, but just to tell you that in my world, since I learned about relationships and money and how relationships struggle with their relationship with each other because of money, I wanted to figure out and understand that more. Well, here's the interesting thing. If you start saving money at 25 and you put $2,000 a year away, that's $166 a month, which is not a whole lot. Most of us spend more money at Adventure's First Stop for Twinkies and hot dogs and drinks in a month than $166. $2,000 a year for 6 years, that's $12,000. And then let that money grow until you're age 70. Or you start 6 years later at age 31, you put $2,000 a year until you're age 70. If the interest rate is the same for both of them, it will take you those 35 years to catch up. So how do you get $12,000 to do the work of 70? Leverage, time and interest. And if you wait 1 year to stop, there's another great one I put down there below. If you can have $1 million today or a penny doubled daily for 30 days. Now, some of you know this. Some of you are like, oh, what would I choose? Would I choose $1 million or would I choose the penny double daily? Well, if you choose the $1 million today, you might be able to go out and buy some really, really cool things. If you choose the penny doubled every day for 30 days, you would have $5.4 million at the end of 30 days. Now, let me switch that because we're going to talk about leverage. If you could choose $1 million today or a penny doubled every day, but every day after the penny doubles, we take the taxes away. What are you going to choose now? Now, remember when I said earlier that getting a mastermind or a coach or a mentor or a counselor is one of the best things you can do? I believe it. Here's why. If you chose $1 million today in the second scenario versus a penny doubled, now remember, a penny doubled every day for 30 days was $5.4 million. That's amazing. A penny doubled every day minus the taxes, normal tax bracket, federal and state, penny doubled every day minus that is less than $70,000. So how do you leverage the growth on your money? You find someone who can help you understand the difference between tax deferral and tax-free growth. The difference between if I earn this money and I have to pay taxes every day, or every day or every week or every month versus not until I take the money out. Some of those tools are really great tools, but if you don't understand them, they can hurt you more than they can help you. Another great leverage tool. I don't know how many of you have reviewed your auto insurance. I don't sell auto insurance. That's not my point, right? Understand the principle of leverage. If you buy a $25,000 vehicle, that's pretty tough to do these days, especially with the shortage that we have. And you pay cash for that $25,000 vehicle, you've just lost the opportunity to earn interest on that money. And you put all of your money in a car. If it gets stolen and you don't have it properly covered, if it gets wrecked and you don't have it properly covered, if you cause the wreck and you're not properly insured, you could be in serious trouble. So one of the ways to leverage what you have, the dollars that you pay for auto coverage or homeowners coverage, and I would encourage y'all to talk to your agents. If you don't have a great agent, then get one. And the way you would know is if your agent cares more about you than they care about your money. And if they do, they're not going to get you the cheapest policy out there. They're going to educate you as to why this is a good policy. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be the most expensive. I remember when I first learned this, I went from the state minimum required coverage on my cars. I usually drive older cars with liability only. I went from the state minimum all the way up to the maximum coverage. It cost me $3 a month to go from $35,100 to $250,500. If I was in an accident and I injured somebody, and nowadays it's not tough. If you run into a Tesla that hits a Humvee, that runs into a Cadillac, that hits the Lamborghini that I saw the other day driving down the road, you're really going to blow through $100,000 pretty quick. It was worth the time and the money to find that out. Health insurance, I hate to pay health insurance premiums, but I'd much rather pay health insurance premiums than pay all of the cost out of pocket. So ways to leverage. So another one, home equity. Some people, now I'm not telling you whether you should pay off your house or shouldn't pay off your house or when you should pay off your house. I think you should get out of debt. By the way, that's a great leverage tool. People who don't have high credit card debts and auto loans and homes and stuff like that, people who are in debt seem to stress a lot more than people who are out of debt. I tell people that the best thing you can do is get out of debt in the best possible way. So years ago, I had a life insurance agent teach me, hey, you know what, Darren, you could put $100 a month extra on your mortgage. You'll pay off your mortgage in about 22 years. I thought, that's pretty cool. But he said, or you could put $100 extra in an interest-bearing account that you control. And at the end of 22 years, you would probably have the same amount of money to pay off your house, but you would control all of that. And oh, by the way, if you were to die in the meantime, your family would not only get the $100 a month that you put away, but they'd also get the life insurance. So now you've leveraged your life to protect the people that you love the most. And you work to get out of debt in the best possible way. There are so many ways, ladies and gentlemen, that we can use leverage to enrich our lives. A couple of things as we finish. Number one, please, please, please remember that you matter and that self-care is essential. Make sure that you take the time. And I promise you, if you wait till the end and go, oh, I'll do that later, remember that the best way to be successful is to put those things first. Plan, prioritize, execute, and then evaluate. Because when you do that, you now are in control of your life as much as you can control. You can't control anybody else. Now, last little leverage tool. This is something that no matter the situation you're in, it can help you be in a better situation. I was talking to a medical professional not too long ago. And yes, they have stress too. Sometimes they don't want to admit it. Sometimes counselors don't want to admit it. But if we don't do proper self-care, we're going to be in high stress situations. And as I was talking to this individual, they were saying, you know, I'm just so stressed. I don't know what to do. And, you know, it's affecting my work. It's affecting my home life. And I just said, well, can I ask you a question? They said, well, yeah, sure. And I said, do you know anything about yoga breathing, mindfulness breathing, box breathing? And this person says to me, I'm a doctor. You're going to talk to me about breathing? And I said, well, he actually said, I'm a doctor. You're going to talk to me about breathing. And then he said, I know this stuff. And I said, what are you doing with what you know? My question to all of us, what are we doing with what we know? Because we tell ourselves, oh yeah, I'll start saving money later. Well, I just told you how to get $12,000 to do the work of 70. Time matters. The longer you wait, the harder it is. Let's not play catch up. That's a tough place. Whether that's mental, emotional, or physically, you can't catch up. You can't grow corn in a day. You can't plant it today, eat it tomorrow. It doesn't happen that way. So let's plant the seeds that matter. So I said to this dog, he's like, well, I just don't have time. And I said, what if you walk out and in between this patient and the other patient, you just take 5 mindfulness breaths. That one principle can literally change your life. So take time for yourself because you matter. Know that leverage is an important principle of truth. And when we understand the principles and apply the principles, our lives get better. We're here to help you at Blomquist Hale. That's what we do. It's why we do what we do, because we love it. We don't do it because we have to. I'm not here because I have to be. I'm here because I literally want to help you. And when you're in a great place, the world's a better place. When you're in a great place and I'm in a great place, we can come together and we can make an even better place. So this is a great opportunity for you. Thank you so much for spending the time to invest in yourself. This is one of the greatest leverage tools that you can have: education and proper information, and then the opportunity to go out and do it. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to check the chats. Thank you to those people who have joined and said thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you.